morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are PHS Consulting Company. We're a boutique ethics consulting company that specializes on women's issues. My name is Shay McDonald.
I'm Hadassah Nicolitson.
And I'm Pearl Mui.
And we will be presenting on the legal, financial, and ethical aspects of your company, Victoria's Secret, as the senior managers. We are going to look at various aspects and suggest a three-step solution to rectify the problem, and we will elaborate on this further during our presentation. I will now hand this over to my colleague Pearl, who will go in depth on the financial implications of the situation.
Thank you, Shay. Before I begin analyzing the financial decline of your company, I'll give a brief history of your growth. As you all know, Victoria's Secret was founded in 1977 by Roy Raymond to cater to the market need for beautiful and gorgeous lingerie that women would feel comfortable in. Here we have pictures of the two parts of the LA's collection of lingerie that was released. In just over a year, your company had amassed over $500,000 in revenue. This was unprecedented for its time and even bigger than what popular competitors like Jockey's and Hanes made in their initial years of founding. And by the early 90s, it had a 1,000% increase in sales revenue, cementing its status as a market giant and one of the biggest US retailers for lingerie. But we have noticed a decline while doing research on your company. Here we can see a snapshot of your parent company, L Brand's stock performance, and we see there has been a decline in stock prices within the last 5 years. Normally a decline in stock prices is associated with bad financial performance as well. Apart from that, we realized that you stopped selling your beauty, clothing, and athleisure line in 2014, and just 2 years later, dropped your swimwear collection as well. And a key aspect of your company, which includes your catalog collection that shows customers what types of lingerie are on offer, was also downsized as well. And finally, your once phenomenal growth rate had declined and slowed down to just about 8%. What then was the cause of this decline? In looking at the company, we decided to show what other companies and brands is doing as well to rectify and fulfill a need and a changing need, an emerging need in the market for beautiful lingerie that caters to all sizes and body types. I will look at 3 companies, including Aerie, which is an American Eagle subsidiary, Adore Me, and Third Love. Here we have Aerie's mission statement, and apart from ensuring that girls and women, its customers, feel real and think women's lingerie, it emphasizes the fact that it's no longer going to retouch its models and no longer use supermodels. Why? Because there is no reason to retouch beauty. We think the real you is sexy. As you may well know, your company has received backlash and criticism over the years for the extreme airbrushing, retouching, and photoshopping of your models. Aside from that, it has witnessed a phenomenal growth rate within the past 1 year, and by 2011, it had acquired 2% of the US market share for lingerie. A key aspect of its branding is introducing more sizes to cater to more women and a larger sector of the market that had been neglected. Here we also have Adore Me, which is a subscription box service for lingerie. And the way Adore Me works is that customers can go online or through social media and curate styles that they would prefer based on cuts, types of fabric, quality of fabric, and other colors as well. And then it ships this lingerie to its customers on a subscription-based service. That's every 45 days to every 1 month. And it also uses social media to create styles online. So when it's about to release a collection, it releases this collection on social media through various channels like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and then customers give their opinions or comments on the styles, and that way it's able to release styles based on consumer preference, and you can also curate your personal style as well. It has witnessed a 4,200% growth within just 3 years of its founding, and now is currently growing at a phenomenal rate of 15,606%, even overtaking your company's growth rate when it initially started. And finally, we have Third Love. Third Love launched an innovative service that allows customers to try on lingerie for a month, in which they can see how the lingerie feels on a day-to-day basis and not just within the dressing room. And aside that, it uses an app for customers to choose their sizing and the kind of styles they would like. So rather than having to go in store, they can easily use the app to to have kind of a suggestion or recommendation of the sizing. And we also not selling lingerie in different sizes and half sizes as well. And it's currently growing at an also phenomenal rate of 100%. Why are we showing you your competitors' financial progress and performance, and what does this have to do with the ethical issue? Well, we believe that your competitors have emerged and are growing so rapidly because they've been able to identify and fulfill a need in the market for lingerie that caters to different sizes, different body types, different styles, and is curated based on their preferences, which your company has failed to do. And there are also bigger ethical implications associated with your branding that I'll hand over to Hadassah to elaborate further on.
Thank you, Pearl. So before we begin the ethical aspect, it's important to mention that within our research within your company, there was no legal aspect that we could point to, primarily because your company has not promised anything to your customers that it is not fulfilling. There's no false advertisement of any kind. It is purely an ethical aspect that we are going to focus on within our presentation. So the first thing that we did was to look back at your company's mission statement, and there were various words that we found spoke to this idea of beauty, such as feminine and sexy, sophisticated, powerful. And we asked ourselves whether these statements about your company are being fulfilled and whether you really are improving the lives of your customers, and why this is so important to the ethical aspect. And so the next part of the mission statement that we found was the most important and in bold was the fulfillment of your customers' desires, as well as the diversity and inclusion aspects. And we found that these are the two things that are missing within your company of fulfilling your customers' desires and having that inclusion. And this is perhaps what my associate touched on earlier, that your competitors are fulfilling that you are not. And so we decided to look deeper into this issue of beauty, desire, and diversity. So the categories are going to be body image, health, sexuality and fantasy, younger audience appeal, and as I mentioned, diversity. So we'll begin with the question, what is beauty? And that's what we asked ourselves what your company was sending out to their customers. This is an example of an ad with the slogan of, perfect one, no one's perfect, until now, which begins this conversation of ethics when you present to your customers as an idea of perfection, which is by definition an ideal beauty which they are trying to attain and which they admire. But again, this slogan separates you and your customers with this idea of perfection, that you are putting out perfect as an ideal that they should be meeting, but which your customers look at and say, that's not me, no one's perfect, therefore I'm not perfect. And so this is another example of a perfect campaign from 2011, which accepted a lot of backlash. And again, that use of the word perfect, when portrayed with very specific and narrow body types with the models, it shows your audience that if they don't look like this, they aren't perfect. And when you put the word perfect with these bodies, you're very carefully and specifically choosing who is allowed to be perfect in the eyes of the consumers. And the consumers do not look like this, and that's where we get this dilemma and conflict. Again, this has to do with body image, and so we looked at specific categories of height, weight, size, shape, and proportion, and what this has to do with body image and self-worth. And as you can see, a competitor, Dove, responded to one of your ads by including very diverse heights and weights and shapes and even colors within their models, and it really shows the juxtaposition of Victoria's Secret's models, which are very specifically a specific height, a specific weight, and a specific shape. And this continues with the more sensitive part of it, which is the health issue. And the picture that you just saw perhaps led us to believe that there's a promotion of unhealthy body standards. And so we looked at specifically what the height and weight requirements are with casting. This is a specific picture from the 2016 fashion show casting video collection in which they showed how the models were ranked and how they were casted. And before even getting to the casting role, they had to fit this very narrow height, 5'7" to 5'11", and very narrow weight, 105 to 125. And so it begins with the casting of your models, and even with very specific things as being underweight, having an eating disorder, over-exercising. These things are even sometimes advertised by the models themselves in their social media accounts when they give interviews of how they are over-exercising or under-eating to fit these standards. And so we continue with this with a picture of the 2016 fashion show just last year, and you can see these are the angels of the company. So they are the selected year-round representation and face of the company. They are the only ones presented in your online catalogs and the different categories of your brand. And as you can see, they're of uniform height and uniform shape and size and proportion. And there's even a European look that's whitewashed across here, where we're going to talk about later with diversity. And so looking in this picture, we wanted to take a pause and just ask ourselves, which is something that we talked about when looking into this, is that do we, everyday women, look like this? And the answer that we found specifically to ourselves was no, we don't. And so we asked ourselves, do the customers look like this? And as you know, this is a very narrow size of population that looks like this and fits those requirements. And so your customers are answering that question by saying, no, I don't look like this either. And that is why we have an ethical dilemma within representation. And this is what we get to when we mention respect. And it's the respecting of your customers' needs and desires that is going to continue in our presentation. So a side note is the younger audience appeal, which is also something that has received backlash. And primarily it's about the hypersexualization of these younger teens that is the target audience, such as preteens and teenagers. And lots of families, and specifically parents, have responded to these campaigns that suggestively and provocatively put the slogans in places that these young teens are wearing that perhaps heightens who they are and their sexuality. And it also, such slogans as "Right Young Things," people have a lot of issue with because it's simplifying what young girls are going through at that age, and it's speaking to that vulnerability of what it means to be growing up as a young girl, and then pointing out that sexuality is how you become a woman. And these brands have received a lot of complaint, and again, it's a very sensitive ethical issue because young girls see this and they think this is the only way that I can be beautiful is if I start dressing this way and if I start suggesting my sexuality this way. And so we move on to our category of sexuality and fantasy. And as you can see from these ads, and specifically the one above, with the angels concept, this was very prevalent within your company in the 80s and 90s, and your customers really responded to it and enjoyed it at first. But over the last decade, we've seen a lot of backlash to this idea of angel because it's a very heavenly idea of what a woman should be, but also a very unrealistic one, even in definition of what an angel is, which is not a human, not a woman. And so this continues with your Valentine's Day ads and your holiday ads, where the models are even objectified with their sexuality to promote these products. And this, we found, is out of touch with what everyday women want to describe their sexuality as, who they want to be within their femininity, and even what it is to be a woman is changing now. And so I will pass this on to my associate pro, who will continue the discussion with a more recent event.
Thank you, Vanessa. In continuing the discussion on sexuality and fantasy issues within your brand, I'll discuss the What is Sexy list that was released just about a week ago. This list is purportedly to show bold, powerful, and confident people and what sexy means to your company and to your consumers. And this list was criticized heavily for being ridiculous, unrealistic, and as you can see here in an article by the Huffington Post. And I'll tell you why. Within this list, we found categories such as sexiest inspiration, sexiest author, sexiest red carpet look, sexiest snapper, amongst other realistic categories. And we believe that why this list was criticized was because these are unrealistic things, or realistic categories, or realistic aspects of womanhood and personhood that are being portrayed here. People, women, your customers, and people in general want to aspire to be members of society that are respected, that have careers, that have lives beyond just being sexy and being portrayed as something as finicky as the sexiest mom. And we also believe all of these issues are connected to the recent rise and prominence of social movements such as feminism, female work empowerment, and most importantly, racial equality. And in the previous snapshot I showed about the stock performance of your parent company, we can see there seems to be a coincidence between how these movements have become more prominent and how there's been a recent decline in your stock performance, because people are aspiring to be more, to want more, and not just to be defined within unrealistic standards of beauty. And with regards to racial equality, I'll hand over to Hadassah, who will continue the presentation on diversity.
Thank you, Pearl. So the last aspect of our ethical dilemma is the diversity. And we found that there is a call that from the customers to Victoria's Secrets that there is a lack of diverse representation within your models. And so we have some examples of current models and even previous models who are born in and are from diverse countries, as you can see, but their ancestry calls to a very European look. And a lot of people have complained about this because although Victoria's Secret claims to be diverse and has models that are born in such ethnically rich countries, their models still look very European. And so it's this continuation of this misrepresentation of what these looks are that leads us to the representation. And a specific example of this is the Asian representation. And as you know, China is your biggest market, and recently, just this year, you opened your first store in Shanghai, and you want to emerge in the Chinese market. And yet, at the store opening, the two angels represented were not Asian. And so we asked ourselves, if the need is to emerge in the Asian market, why do you not have an Asian angel? And that goes beyond just the 4 Asian models that were in the runway, but are not represented online, in the catalogs, in your branding, in your TV commercial ads. And so if this is a specific example of how, if you want to appeal to diversity, you have to include diverse models, even from Asian representation, within your lineup of the angels, of who you see year-round and not just once a year on the runway. Another aspect of this is that just in 2015, a model was allowed to wear her hair naturally on the runway show. For decades previously, models were required to put in the long, luscious, wavy extensions that were known as the Victoria's Secret's look. And so this is a very specific example of how ethically young girls are watching the show, and even women are watching the show, and they're thinking, if I want to be beautiful, I have to even have my hair down to this specific standard of what beauty is. And how different cultures that perhaps do not have this long extension look are not being respected because they're not being represented. And so this leads us to the most sensitive topic within this ethical dilemma, which is cultural appropriation. And before I explain the examples of what has happened, I want to explain more about cultural appropriation and how it's when you use a culture's traditions and heritage and specific things such as garb for your own use, and without sensitivity to that culture's history and rich impact in the world. And so these very specific examples of the headdress and the geisha costume and the Polynesian tribal markings were used in the runway show without any sensitivity or call to that culture or to that country. And there wasn't really an impact of why these costumes or why these garbs are important to that culture. And even more than that, the models themselves who are portraying these costumes, even calling them costumes is already an insensitive remark, but they are not of the culture themselves. And so there's that disconnect between choosing to use a culture, but then not really fulfilling what it means to honor them and to treat them sensitively and to respect what the cultures themselves are. And again, in just last year, there were a lot of Asian-themed costumes, and yet none of the angels themselves were Asian. And so, moving on to the last portion of our presentation, I will give this to my colleague, Shay.
Thank you, Lisa. So my colleagues have identified 2 main issues. The financial aspect, which is where your competitors are quickly gaining a market share, but you are falling behind. And the ethical aspect, where your customers not only feel not represented, but disrespected by your portrayal of beauty. To adequately address this problem, we suggested a 3-pronged solution: revamp, refocus, and renew. The revamp process we encourage you to focus on ideas of body positivity. That is not only focusing on a narrow body type of 0 to 2, but have a wide range of body types, because all body types are beautiful. Additionally, you'll need to do away with methods such as photoshopping and whitewashing. One case in particular had a model, Gigi Hadid, where her beauty marks were erased. You're sending a message to your consumers that their flaws, their imperfections, what makes them unique, are not enough. So moving away from this concept will enable you to better connect with your audience, and we will hopefully see you regain and maintain your position as market giants. The second phase is a refocus process. You will move away from focusing on hypersexualizing of the female body, which is an issue not just for grown women, but young innocent girls whose parents are concerned about the labels you are splashing across their undergarments. And this perpetuation of an unrealistic male fantasy, and you're feeding into this hypersexuality, and it's something that is disconnected from your consumers. Additionally, you will need to have a wide range of bra types. 2 of your competitors, Aries and L Brands, have moved to having sizes in the triple Gs, and even having half sizes, telling consumers that whatever size you are enough, and there's a bra in the market for you. Additionally, you will need to maintain constant communication with your audience, as this is where you can maintain your focus and really capture what your consumers want to enable that they feel respected. Additionally, we recommend that you perhaps attach a cause that you are dedicated to. ARIS has partnered with the National Agency on Eating Disorder, yet there is no connection of Victoria's Secrets and any brand on any cause. We would suggest perhaps partnering with breast cancer awareness or sexual awareness on campuses, as these are things that you can use your platform as market giants to aid. Lastly, the What is Sexist list. We recommend that you really reconsider the title of this list or the things that you're classing as sexy, because it's out of reach of the common rise in new wave feminism, and your consumers are wondering, why is this a thing? Why are we still perpetuating women in these small categories when we can aspire to be more? The last process is a renewal. We will urge you to incorporate models from a diverse multicultural representation. Diversity is key. You will have to realize that expanding your markets and having services worldwide will require you to have audiences, will require you to have models that look like your audience. Models cannot be continuing to look up on the screen and see models that look so markedly different from them. Additionally, you will need to have models that are from markedly different ethnicities. But for one example, my colleague mentioned that Behati Prince-Zulu is Namibian, yet 99.9% of the Namibian population does not look like Miss Prince-Zulu. This is a clear disconnect, and you cannot continue to perpetuate this ideal. Lastly, you need to embrace naturality and refrain from cultural appropriations. Cultures are to be respected, and your audience is really asking you to recognize this and not use their cultural costumes as things to be displayed on your runway for your benefit. Lastly, we suggest you have a Love Your Skin campaign. Models have been complaining that they are not a particular size or they're not a particular shade, and this has led to a big disconnect. Your consumers are recognizing this and realizing that the models displayed do not look like them. We're asking you, the fact that you're here today means that you recognize that there's a problem and that you're willing to solve it. With our help, we really feel as if that you can make and maintain your position as market giants. Thank you for inviting us, and we welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take 20 minutes to let our esteemed members of the senior staff here, and I will excuse myself, I'm going to open my mouth.
I would like to make a comment. First of all, this topic is, I am so thankful that you chose this topic. I think that there are many situations and companies that perpetuate this sort of thing for women in our culture, and which I believe is shameful, really. So I love your presentation, the focus that you've taken. So
let's keep those comments for when we give them feedback. Right now, we're going to stay in our role as the senior management, responding to their findings and what.
Okay, well, I am senior management, and now I'm a woman, and so I'm just going to close with, you're lucky you have a group of women that you're talking to, because usually it was men that you were talking to.
I'd like to ask you for your priorities. You have given in your 3 recommendations between 15 and 20 items that you think we as a company need to do. And I'd like to know where you would put your greatest priority in terms of what you would like to see this company do first and why that's important.
I can take that question. Thank you for that question. Because our steps are not things that are statically done, we believe that accomplishing one will naturally allow the rest to unfold. For example, if you focus on having women of diverse body types, this is a big problem because young girls looking at these models there's been an increase in eating disorders among the female population. And if there's a direct connection between Victoria's Secret and eating disorders, then that must be a problem. So we do feel, while this is an important step to take, we also feel as if you cannot, we feel as if it's like the domino effect. If you knock one down, the rest will surely come. So first, having the body types represented to stem that eating disorder problem, but also ensuring that your models are actually representative of the population. You cannot have a narrow European standard of beauty, as that's only a small percent of the world population. And if you're seeking to expand into markets and having women everywhere from all cultures feel accepted and comfortable in their skin, then this is a natural next step to follow.
And just to add to that, I really do think that the domino effect is that if you bring in different body types, then you're dealing with the body image, the health issue, the sexuality, the fantasy, and there you're really showing them that woman is more than just a very specific definition, and you are touching on all those things.
So I have a question for you. As a member of the board of Victoria's, I'm so happy that you brought this forward, because it's something that I personally believe in and I'm incredibly passionate about. And so I thank you for being bold and innovative in presenting this. My question to you is really about the resistance that I personally receive on the rest of my board team, not these beautiful ladies sitting here, but the rest of our board team. And their point of view is this, is that Victoria's Secrets is a well-established and dominating company in our field, in our industry, as you know. And their target market is very narrow, and therefore they feel that they are justified to continue their stance. They also recognize that companies like Dove and many of the other partnering companies that you have mentioned have taken a different stance, and they've decided to cater to the other parts of the population. They seem to have done this knowingly, and they seem to continue to choose the same choice. And so, as someone who is an advocate, as a partner to your vision, how would you suggest that I could overcome this resistance from my fellow board members?
I can take that question.
I just want to add, in this instance, we are the senior management and not the board.
Oh, sorry, the senior managers.
Definitely, thank you. So as we mentioned and as you've seen, while Victoria's Secret is still a market giant, there are opportunities to expand. And as with every business and every company, apart from your corporate social responsibility, you also have the responsibility to make a profit to your shareholders. So in introducing this concept of introducing diverse body types and diverse people, diverse representation, we would recommend that you let them know that there's opportunities to expand, and if you expand, you can more profits, your company will be more profitable. And also, just as you may have seen with companies like American Apparel, Macy's, and Wetzel, they've had to close down. These companies were, they were a key part of our childhood. Who here didn't shop at one of those stores? But yet now they no longer exist or are very close to bankruptcy. And this is because they saw a change in the market and decided not to respond to it, because they felt that the current market and their current demand was enough to continue to carry the company. And unfortunately, this is not so. Trends happen, there are trends can be cyclical, but at the same time, we can see that there is a continuous and steady decline and a continuous and steady rise of feminism and other social movements. So if we continue to maintain a niche market, after a while, your niche market will change. And we also understand and we hope that your company intends to run beyond this current generation and generations forward. And generations coming up might not subscribe to this trend of a very niche body type, a very niche representation. Even if they are of that type, they will want to be associated with companies and want to purchase from companies that are diverse, that embrace and celebrate diversity and inclusion. So as a precursor and as a precaution to prevent such financial decline from continuing and possible bankruptcy, and just currently to emerge and continue to enlarge your brand, would encourage you to look beyond the niche market and also try to capture the rest of the market that other companies are fulfilling. And we also know that you have the financial resources to do so as well. We know you use casting agents, and there are different modeling companies right now, and there are also different models, different popular models. For instance, Ashley Graham, Iscar Lawrence, and employing these models, bringing them onto your brand, and also other models as well, will be very it will be financially savvy and also affordable for your company. So yeah, just letting them know that profitability is one of your key concerns, and also the future going concern of your company as well.
Sure. Just to follow up.
Can I add to what she's saying? I feel as if you could also remind your colleagues of the mission statement and the values. Hadassah highlighted earlier that what you said in your mission statement and your values was that you value diversity, you value inclusivity, yet you've strayed so far away from that concept. So reminding them that this is the concept that this company was founded on, and this is what it built its empire on. Sure. Just reminding them of that, I think will serve to recognize them that they can go back to the bulletin board and expand.
I completely agree with you, and I think those are great recommendations. And in speaking with our other senior managers from the marketing department and from public relations, they all, 100% unanimous, agree with all of us. Again, the questions are, if you were to go to the finance department, you were to go to the accounting department, they're looking at our sales projections, they're looking at our trends, and they don't see any risk. They're seeing our profits continue to go up. They have no need to go down unless that there's some real market evidence to show that profit is going down. I don't think that the rest of the board will be swayed to unfortunately change their point of view. So that's my plea to you to help me sell that case to the rest of the team managers.
Thank you. I would say,
go back to the slide so she can see it.
Well, just while they go back, I think that an example of a company that was doing very well and was not experiencing, let's say, a decline, they were still growing, but then very rapidly experienced the customers stepping away from them, was American Apparel, who has a very similar conception of sexuality and using very specific models in a very unrealistic way. Right. And it was actually very shocking to teenage girls across the world, I would say, to go to their stores and say, where's American Apparel? How did they disappear so quickly? And if that threat of not being in touch with your customers and disappearing so quickly, an evidence such as American Apparel, doesn't speak to Victoria's Secrets, then it really, there are headlines across the web saying, how can they be so blind, to put it bluntly, or even why do they not recognize that the social media, it erupts in chaos when such things as the What is Sexy list comes out. Just on Sunday it came out, and everyone across the board, they were furious that they continue to do it, and perhaps it is the financial and the accountant, that aspect, they're saying the numbers aren't showing us anything that we should be concerned about right now. But I think it's something that's prevalent through social media, that's in the society, that's within your customers. Even in stores, you are currently closing down stores. So if the numbers aren't showing it, definitely the access to it is. You don't have swimwear anymore. You don't have clothing anymore. You don't have accessories anymore. And the company has said that it's doing this, closing down other parts to focus on its lingerie. And lingerie was your smallest department to begin with. Right. Swimwear was your biggest, and it was just closed a year ago. So I would say there is some really hard evidence here to show you that even if the trends aren't showing it, there's factual evidence that is within the closing of different departments and what your customers are saying. And did you want to shoot?
Yes, and here we have the stock performance of your parent company, L Brands. And yes, it's justifiable that this was just a 1-year decline. So it seems like that was a stock, that could be a general stock market problem, and the market could pick up again. But we would want your company to guard against a further decline and not just continue in this trend. Truthfully, so it may pick up again, your stock price may rise, but we don't want, just as Master Sheets mentioned, we don't want you to continue in this trend or to continue continue to regain such a small market share. There are opportunities to expand, and if they're saying this is 2017, there's been a decline, and we know social movements are as prominent as they ever were right now, and they're going to be even more prominent, and also the proliferation of social media as well. Every time your company releases a new collection, a new line, even the fashion show, there's always criticism before there's any praise. Right. And we feel that this should not be associated with any brand. If a company releases something new, there should always be praise before criticism. But unfortunately, we see the exact opposite with your company, and we believe that these are key signs and key indicators that there's something wrong with the branding, and it could also affect your financial standing as well.
I'm a little concerned with how narrowly you defined legal.
Yes.
Because how you defined it, and I work with legal, how you define legal is really you haven't broken promises, which suggests that they operated ethically.
Yes.
But has your research not shown any potential liability or problems related to the position that the company is currently taking with its advertising? Are you suggesting we should be worried about lawsuits, or is there any tangible information that would legitimately suggest there is a legal issue here as well?
Yes, so one legal issue that was small enough that we didn't want to focus on it, or I mean we could mention it now, is that within the casting of the models, the modeling industry, when you choose to discriminate or even to exclude certain models based on their race or ethnicity, and you have a protocol for we need this many European models and we only have space for 2 black models, which is actually a statement that they did put out when casting for the show, that's when you can get a lawsuit. If your models are brave enough, although it's very difficult, to sue the company for not giving them equal opportunity in their work environment, in their workplace, to be on that runway show, that's one aspect. I think the harder issue to push is that like an example of this is Brandy Max, which is a company here in LA. Their mission statement is that it's one size fits all, and that size is 00. And they have received lots of criticism, but they maintain, and their founder is Italian, he maintains that he is cultivating a size 0 culture, a look, an aesthetic, that this is what he wanted. And so that's an extreme defense, but Victoria's Secret's kind of fits that, where they're saying, we want to promote this kind of aesthetic, and there's no legal ramification for promoting such an aesthetic. There's no legal precedent for a consumer coming and saying, I don't feel included. They would just respond and say, this is our company's values, these are aspects of the way that we promote our models, and there are people who enjoy this. There are men who speak to this, there are women who speak to this, there are young girls that aspire to this, and so I think for all the backlash, there is also still the other side where they could say, people are still responding to what we're putting out, and it's just one type of look. It might not be your look, especially in the fashion industry as a whole. Fashion is subjective. It's what you like. You go to the stores that you choose to go to. Maybe you don't like a goth look, so you choose an all-white look. It really is no way for a fashion company to say, you wear what we wear. Likewise, there's no way for a customer to say, you have to only sell what I like. So that's why we didn't touch on the legal aspect as much. Do you guys have anything to mention about the legal?
I have a question, if I may. Going back to actually components of what you've all said, but if we were to rebrand in terms of image and bring it with a component of ethics inside of it, and a mission that is maybe more ethical, how would you suggest the imagery be? How would it change to incorporate that, but we would still be making a profit?
I'll just briefly say that while saying we believe the consumers want diverse representation and diverse body types, you don't necessarily have to exclude your current models, but include them. And this profitability will mean a bigger market share because more consumers can purchase from your company rather than having to go to other companies as well. And
so your competitors have realized that you have been ignoring a certain percent of the market, right? You're not providing bras that range above double D or in half sizes, and that the rebranding process will enable you to have that wide array of models. An interesting quote that we found while we were researching is when the founder said that he founded Victoria's Secret so that he could feel comfortable while shopping for women's lingerie. So we feel as if this refocusing and putting the spotlight back on women, woman empowerment, there's no woman that would not gravitate towards that. However, what you're currently doing is excluding a large amount of your population. It's excluding people who look at your models and feel as if this is not me. Are you saying that I am not perfect? With slogans, with a mentality like that, you cannot expect to expand further. You've recently went into China, yet there are 4 Asian models
On the runway.
on the runway, not your angels. So these are not your all around your ambassadors. We strongly believe that if you just give this some thought, having diversity does not in any way limit your potential to grow or expand. It does not limit your potential to maintain your position as market giants. What it does, it reinforces your position as a market giant. It minimizes the capacity that your competitors have to expand. And it also reinforces this to your customers that we care about what we're putting out for you, that you are the voices that we should be listening to. And I cannot think of an audience that connection would not be made with. And we really feel as if you capitalize on this advantage, you can expand and you can remain profitable.
And just some specific examples of this, very bare. Have a model who is under 5'7". Maybe have a model who is 5 foot, 5'5", 5'3", 5'4". That would be a range. Maybe have a model who is heavier than 125 pounds. Maybe have a model who is a different shape other than straight. Maybe have curvier. Those are very basic. And then you could also have the word angel, change it to warrior, change it to ambassador. Ambassador is a great word. Another example of this would be on social media. You often see the angels, the face of the companies, frolicking on the beach. They are encouraged to go on vacations and to capitalize on their vacations to promote the company. Why not have them participate in the marches, in the movements, volunteering? Why not have them in like ethnically rich places where they can do good instead of just frolicking on a yacht or drinking mimosas in a pool? Like that's what you're choosing to do, and it's an easy change. Ask one of the models, hey, next time that you are hanging out with children, take a picture and say, this is what a Victoria's Secret's ambassador looks like. A mom, she can be a mom, she just doesn't have to be a 20-something-year-old sexy girl on a beach. So those are very small but very specific, and they would be easy, I think.
And what's interesting is that Hadassah mentioned most of these models are actually entrepreneurs. Yeah, this goes on set.
Yes.
They all have different
businesses,
different ventures that they're passionate about, yet that part is not what gets displayed. It's the part that there's objects to be objectified, and we really feel as if that continuing disconnect is going to have a ripple effect in the market as more and more women realize that this is not how I want to be portrayed. Yes, I can be sexy, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also a mom. I can do it all. I'm not just an object.
And with regards to profitability, I should also mention that a lot of all the brands that I mentioned are all US-based lingerie retailers. Victoria's Secret is actually still one of the biggest global lingerie retailers. So there are opportunities to expand, but as a woman of African descent, I don't think it will be possible to expand into an African market showing models of very specific body types and very Eurocentric features. That's just not going to happen. You have to have models that have diverse representation, not excluding the body type, but including all body types and all diverse representations as well.
Sorry, you're really talking about rebranding. When you talk about maintain constant communication with your audience, what are you specifically expecting in a nutshell that the company will do?
Thank you for this question. So when we were talking amongst ourselves, we realized that several other brands, what they do is that they have consumer brand ambassadors. So this is a process where consumers become the angels that you're that you're portraying. So consumers would take a picture of themselves. Okay. Consumers would be the ones who are your target audience are the ones who will be representing your brand. That will show people that the average woman, the everyday woman, can as well be a Victoria's Secret's model or be an advocate for Victoria's Secrets. You will also have social media campaigns where you can ask your consumers, how does this look? That's a simple question. Several brands have been doing this, and this is an aspect that you've ignored because you just simply implied that you know what's best, when sadly that's not the case. Your consumers know what they want. They know what's best, and they've been asking you for years. So I feel as if it's time to answer that call. Just with social media and the rise of the instantaneous way that comes with social media, you can capture this market. It takes nothing, you lose nothing. You already have a social media campaign. Just reach out to your consumers, have them tell you what they like, have them send you pictures of themselves. Target did this the other day, and the response from the consumers was amazing. You had women from all shapes and sizes from all over the world being displayed on the Target website as beautiful women. And Victoria's Secret is more than in the capacity to be able to do something like this. It's not a hard thing to do. You simply need to have the will to do it.
And even something as simple as what is sexy to you, instead of just what is sexy. There would be social media responses saying, I feel sexy when I'm making food for my family, I feel sexy when I'm driving my kids, I feel sexy when I'm finishing an essay, I feel you know, there's so many things that you could feel sexy doing if you just so asked your audience. And then I think those categories, why not have a sexiest policewoman, why not have, you know, different jobs even up there, and people would love to be a part of that, not just celebrities that are handpicked. Why not have real people in your what is sexy to you list? That would be great.
I'd like to stop the question there and just give feedback. I'll be very brief. I haven't seen this passion in the years I've been doing this. You all are very passionate about this, and I commend you. It sells well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are tremendous numbers of things that I like, but I'm going to focus on tomorrow.
Great.
And the 10 minutes you have to talk about ethics.
Yes.
You're not going to have any slides, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really critical that you gave wonderful answers to questions. Think about how you want to focus the material in the short 10 minutes you have to be as impactful as possible. And your question was a really good one around selling. You know, how do you sell this to others? So your answers to several of us gave powerful information about why these things need to happen. Your list of 15 items, your answer to me about you do this and there's a domino effect, put into language the very key things you want people to have, because you have tremendous statistics and tremendous insight as to what needs to happen. You've got 10 minutes to pick the best of what you've got, the most concrete, the most specific, the most impactful, because you're trying to persuade the people that didn't come to the meeting today, who are male colleagues, although this one is terrific, you know, what can I say? But you need to anticipate that you're selling this, you're persuading, you're creating awareness about its relevance, and so don't generalize, get into the specifics.
To that point also, if I can piggyback, remember that you're in character, and that as much as you personally are very passionate about the subject, as am I, I'd be up there too, doing the same thing, you have to remember that in a business setting, there are many constraints. And so I was picturing myself like with my senior managers. If I had said what you said, they would say, Shivani, we feel your passion, we get you, we don't doubt that people feel this way, but show us the money, show us the bottom line. By the way, be concise about it, we don't have 10 minutes to listen to you. That they would come down at me that harsh. And so I'm protective of you as upcoming leaders to think about that, to just remain in character, because you have to make your answers concise, you have to be very business-minded, you have to think about what the rest of the industry has unfortunately put forth for everybody else to think that this is what it looks like to be beautiful and sexy and successful. It's a huge uphill battle, and I commend you for the passion that you display. I just say, channel that passion, channel the way that you answer questions, slow down, going really fast on speed, and it comes with passion.
Yes.
I do the same thing. And articulate your statements, because you can have much more of an impact if you speak slowly, you articulate your statements, and you pause. Pause has great meaning. And so use that as ways to really manage your 10 minutes tightly. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
I thought you did an excellent job. I do suggest that when you respond to questions, that you shorten your answers a little bit. The passion is great. I love the topic. And what you need to do, in my opinion, as you go forward here, is that you are the lead generation right now. And you need to explain to people who are particularly of maybe another gender, you know, we are, she's
Different
young.
mindset.
We're a little older, but this is a passion I'm sure we have had for years, and we've fought a much longer battle. But you are on a platform that you have power. You are in power. Use that power as an educated, an intelligent, educated consumer. You're the people that are going to be out there buying. You're representing that population, and focus on that in terms of the ethical part of this component of rebranding. That's why I've asked that question. So focus there, but I think the topic is fantastic.
And you're experts because you've set the role as being consultants. So speak from, I think, to piggyback off of yours, speak simply from the power of consultants in our research, in our, so you're the ones conveying this. You've come to sell something that you are entitled to sell in position. So uphill battle or not, the company is presumably paying you to give them the very best advice about why they should change.
And take that empowerment.
Thank you.
Thank you. But I have one more question, one more comment. If we have time. Sure. Do we have time? Sure. Okay. And I say this because I love you guys. You're awesome. And I was you many years ago in presenting something like this. I'd like to give you a piece of feedback that I took completely the wrong way. And I held on to it for a very long time. And I realized later, now it's been 12 years later since I had my MBA, that I've been in industry now and I finally got what was being told to me, is that you have to work with what you have in the room. Right now, females in general, women, as you know, I've already battled, they blazed the trail, for us, and we have a different trail to blaze now. You have to look like what's in the room. So first off, talk about appearance, gotta wear suits across the board. Even if it's hot, just for your small presentation, if you're truly in character with the board of directors, gotta wear suits. I was never taken seriously otherwise. Take it with a grain of salt. It's not a personal thing. I'm just giving you advice.
Do you mean like in business
Don't go out
in
and
general?
buy it. Don't go out and buy a suit today.
No,
Yes,
not
because
today.
we were
But
you're saying in business in general.
Because I believe you will have a platform soon with your passion. I believe that you will get in front of the right people.
It's not about tomorrow, guys. No
It sounds
shopping
like
this
we were told not to bring suits for tomorrow, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, when you have the platform,
Yes.
show up differently.
Yes.
Okay? The second comment I have for you, or question I have for you, purely your personal opinion, this is not in character, I just want to know, why do you think Victoria's Secret hasn't done this so far? They got done doing it, everybody else is doing it. Truly, tell me your opinion, why do you think they've done it?
I think it's because men are running the company.
Yes.
Actually, because I've
Bingo.
thought about this for
Bingo.
a long time, and I
Casting
said,
directors,
well, I
90%
said,
male.
well, don't people care about money?
Have you
They do."
checked? Is that true? Did
Yes,
you-
it is absolutely
It's
true.
absolutely
In
true.
What is
fact,
the highest ranking woman that you saw?
She's just the creative.
she's the creative
director.
designer of the
Exactly.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes, and that's what we know, and I know this from watching those videos about the show. Yeah.
And why do you think that
And
the
let me
culture-
add that they are men who probably want women who look like
Yes,
them.
that is the point. That's the
Perpetuate
point.
the culture.
They love this company. They really do. When you hear them talk about Victoria's Secrets and how long they've been working there, they love it. And why do they love it? Because they get to perpetuate their
Yes.
male fantasies. And
Exactly.
they even go so as far to admit it. When we were founded, we were here to create a fantasy. That's what was missing in the market. That's what Victoria's Secrets did. And they're keeping it going. And they're not wrong about how they feel.
Right.
They're just perhaps wrong about
So
the
your
direction of the company.
instinct, when you said, don't they care? Don't you think, so deep down inside, what feeling does that bring for you? Is that, to me, it brings arrogance.
Right. I mean,
Okay, so why do you think the company is so arrogant to say that we have our market share, we're doing well, we have no profit issues, like blah, 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 and like all these other companies let them do it. So there's something in the culture, right? There's something in the norms, the mindset
Yeah.
of leaders
yes.
that is allowing them to continue doing this.
I'd like to offer two things. One, I agree wholeheartedly with what she said about it doesn't apply to here. And you don't need to run out and buy a
No,
different
please
suit,
don't.
whatever. So don't take that the wrong way. But I guess I'm old school. I left home and I was like, yeah, I've been in this thing 20 years. They kind of relax. I don't need to wear a shirt. I don't need to wear a tie. I just go open collar. And I bought all of that stuff for me yesterday. And I trooped my behind up to Nordstrom's and bought tie and stuff because I'm like, when I was in the corporate world, I know. The only thing I would have probably done different, I'd have probably had on a blue or pinstripe suit
Exactly.
with white and red tie, the uniform. And I don't want to offend anybody, but let me tell you, when I first went to work for the phone company, And they start telling us, we went through a dress for success. The blue, the gray, the pinstripe, the white shirt, the red tie. And I had to tell you that I was not taken kindly for a while. And I told him, I said, I can do all of that. But in 1970, whatever, he said, I can't do anything with this black face of mine. I said, I can't do anything with that. And there's some people out there that's going to have a problem with that. You know, so I said, you know, I'll do all of the rest of the stuff. You know, but understand that, you know, that's good. And the other thing I was going to point out, and you were talking about the market share and the decline and just some of the margins. I had dinner last night with two executives from Nike, and they were sharing that one of their top executives put something out about their pay and how at Nike he was so proud that the women there earned 94 point whatever percent of what the men did. And he thought that was a great thing to say and do. And the women in the company ate him alive. They ate him alive because they said, sure, 94 whatever is good, but that other 5 point whatever percent is really important. And let us tell you, this company was built on what's a track image. And if you got a track star that won something in 9.3 seconds, that's a big difference than you running it in 9.1. So those fractions are very important. So when you start talking about those margins or whatever, really important.
That's a great way to state the competition. That's why being female colleagues is.
I don't know exactly how you should word this without being offensive, but it seems to me that we will probably hit on the communication topic tomorrow because you've raised it. You might want to say in the absence of a significant number of women top executives, it's especially important that you ensure that you're beyond creative, that you're getting into a, however you want to say it, a definition of diversity and reality that will allow you to speak to the larger demographic that you're currently missing.
One point that comes to mind when she says this is that you might want to highlight what the buying power of all women are.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
And when you're looking at what's this small, you're limiting yourself in terms of the buying power of all.
Yeah, and that's the reason I talk about empowerment, because you are now at a time in our lives and history that you have a platform. And a lot of women have come a long way and suffered a lot way back within the last 100 years to get you where you are, and use that platform. We are very important people. We are very important consumers. We are successful women.
I wish I had someone here to offer you what was offered in my last session. They did a Facebook presentation, and someone said, would you like to go before Facebook?
That was me.
And so, was that you? Yeah. And they hesitated. I answered for them. I said, yeah, you do. Yes, you do. I would love for someone to make that offer to you all that had that kind of connection with Victoria's Secret to say, you know, here's a group of young ladies, people, diverse, whatever, who are part of your market going forward, whatever. This will be interesting to see how they